My husband and I have been together for 25 years. We have 3 kids, F8, M15, and F17. My husband and I had a lot of trouble conceiving our daughter. We went through several years with no luck and had seen a fertility doctor who had prescribed some medication to help with ovulation. We couldn't afford IVF, so we were going to try this last thing and then look into adoption. Long story short, I was SA'd during a burglary while my husband was out with his brother. It was right when I was to be ovulating. At the hospital, I took EC even though I knew it would undo all the hard work medication and mean we wouldn't be able to have a baby of our own. But I couldn't risk getting pregnant with my R-words baby. After a few months, I've been feeling off, sick, and down. I figured I was just depressed after the essay, and I hadn't been eating. But I soon found out I was pregnant. We were so excited until I went to my appointment and found out I was 15 weeks instead of the 5 or 6 weeks I thought I was. I had been having really irregular spotting and bleeding since the EC, so I didn't even imagine I was that far along. My husband and I were devastated because that meant there was so much uncertainty surrounding paternity. We had our ultrasound, and as soon as we saw the baby on the screen, I knew I couldn't have an abortion, and my husband didn't want to either. We talked and went back and forth about adoption, and if the baby didn't end up being his or what we would do, and he said he didn't care about paternity. We just wouldn't find out. We decided to wait until our child was older to tell them, and they could decide if they wanted to find out themselves. I will also note that, at this point, my case was unsolved, but had been linked to other SAs or murders at the time. A few years ago, my officer was caught, and a year ago, he was finally sentenced. At the hearing I spoke, and my daughter and son knew about it, but I didn't go into details. They knew I was attacked, but only knew it was before they were born. Last Christmas, my mill bought my daughter, and only my daughter at 23andMe for Christmas. I thought it was extremely weird, but didn't think too much of it. Thinking back, I don't know why I didn't see it for what it was. My daughter was equally confused and asked if I wanted to do it instead. I'm adopted. I said sure and just gave my daughter an Amazon gift card for the price of the test. My daughter brought it to my attention that my mill has been overly critical of my daughter in the last few months, commenting on her differences. She said things like, "I wonder where those eyes came from, hair height." And she even said to my daughter, "I wonder why you're so skinny." My daughter looks exactly like me. The same eye color, same hair color, and same texture, but she is quite a bit taller than me. I'm 5'8", she's 6'ft". I'm on the heavier side, as is my husband, and my daughter is extremely thin, but she is also an athlete. I've never had any reason to believe from looks alone that she is not my husband's daughter. After my daughter brought it to my attention how my mill was acting, I spoke with her, and she said, "Oh, she's just being sensitive." This was a couple months ago. A couple nights ago, my mill invited my husband and me out for dinner and told us to leave the kids at home because she had something important to discuss with us. We went to a restaurant we're eating at, and my mill handed me and my husband 2 separate envelopes. My husband and I both looked in the envelope, and there were DNA comparison results. I asked my mill what it was, and she said, "The proof that you're the garbage I always knew you were." I was extremely confused. I asked whose DNA she compared, and as I said that I just knew, she said my husband and my daughter. My husband looked at me, and he looked so hurt and lost. I'll never get that image out of my head as long as I live. I called her a heartless CNT, and my husband and I left. I blocked her number from mine and my kids' phones, but I figured my husband needed to make that decision on his own. My husband told me last night that my mill called him, and he stopped by after work at her house. She was telling my husband that she's known for a while and suspected for a very long time, and that she wasn't sure how to approach the topic with him. My husband asked how she knew that. She said she overheard my Bill talking to his wife and heard our daughter may not be his. My mill took that to mean that I cheated, so she did a DNA test. Last year around the hearing, my husband got drunk and ended up mentioning the hearing and some details to my Bill. Apparently that night, while sleeping, he said, "I couldn't protect her, and what if she's not mine?" My husband was extremely drunk and did not remember doing this. My mother-in-law does not know that I was sad, but she does know there was a break-in and I was attacked. She kept trying to convince my husband to leave me. My husband told her that what she did was unforgivable and that he was going to cut her off. My husband is inconsolable. He's so upset that he told his mother to F off, and then told her that my attack was actually an essay. And that's who our daughter's biological father is. It still makes me sick to say that. She tried to apologize, but my husband told her he couldn't forgive her and not to contact any of us. I told everyone my MIL DNA tested our daughter, and we were done with her. I have 7 siblings. 5 think I'm in the right. The other 2 think I'm in the wrong. And my Bill can't believe Mill did that, but understands why, because she didn't have the entire story and assumed I wasn't being truthful to my husband. But even if I wasn't, I can't imagine being a parent so concerned with my child's relationship that I would go to those lengths to meddle. Update. First, thank you for all your support, and a big F off to all the creeps and arseholes. To answer the most common questions. Yes, we are not in contact with my Mill. I haven't talked to her since dinner, and my husband hasn't spoken to her since a couple days after that. She knows I was SA'd and attempted to apologize to my husband when he last spoke to her, but he basically told her to F off, and he couldn't forgive her. We also had a good relationship up until this point, or so I thought. We hung out and did stuff together. I was just really hurtful that she told me at dinner when I asked what the envelope was that it's proof that you're the trash I always knew you were. Also, my answers and descriptions of what took place are intentionally vague, due to the amount of attention this got, and the fact that someone commented that this is now on TikTok. I don't want a single person to know mine or my family's true identity, and try to explain my daughter's biology to my attacker or his family. If my daughter desires to do that in the future, I want that decision to be wholly hers, and not have another decision about her future made against her will. I'll suffice it to say that he is in prison for life without parole, and I am not the only person for whom he did this. He also murdered at least one other victim. There are very few articles about this trial, because it was a closed trial, and although none of the victims were interviewed or mentioned by name, they did use initials. There are also a slew of other charges he has brought against him. People want to know why or how I could have kept a baby, knowing the possibility of the attacker being the father. And the answer is that even if I had known definitively that he was the father, my decision probably wouldn't have been different. She is as much a part of me biologically speaking as she is him, and after seeing her move around, I didn't desire an abortion, although it would have been nearly impossible for me to get one anyway where I lived. Although she was conceived through violence, she was raised in love, understanding, and acceptance. She is much more mine and my husband than my attacker. Also, all he did was contribute DNA to her, nothing else. He's had no influence or part in her life, and likely never will. I know DNA doesn't mean anything in the sense of who she is, but that doesn't diminish the devastation and anger I feel knowing he is responsible for any part of her. I'm honestly not sure why my husband and I were so blindsided, but I feel like you can convince yourself of anything given the right circumstances. Initially, we did feel it was likely the attacker because of the year we went without conceiving. But when I got pregnant with my son pretty soon after my daughter, I knew I had convinced myself that not only was it a possibility, it was the only likely scenario. It's also not lost on me that the decision to keep her isn't something many people apparently agree with, according to this post. But I know I made the right decision because my daughter is the most amazing girl, and I couldn't imagine my life without her. My daughter is doing well, and her relationship with myself and my husband hasn't changed at all. If anything, her relationship with my husband is much better. She makes an effort to spend more time with him, and they have many shared interests. My daughter said she isn't upset I didn't tell her. She's upset she had to find out when she wasn't truly ready, and she was happy I was able to share such a vulnerable, horrible event with her. My son now knows the specifics, and my youngest knows my daughter has a different dad, but not about my SA. People also seem to be concerned with her genetics and how they affect her future health. She already had neonatal testing for genetic disorders. I am not a carrier of any autosomal recessive disorders, and she has had genetic testing for autosomal dominant ones and was negative. She has also had genetic testing for several different forms of cancer because of my biological family history. Anything else couldn't affect her until adulthood, and they are all almost heavily influenced by lifestyle, so they wouldn't be a concern until she's much older. I'm not sure what else to say, so I'll just once again reiterate how thankful I am for all the support. Edited for clarity and context. Sorry, this was a rant. I didn't go into a lot of specifics like I did in my initial posts. Also, I didn't word it very well, but we tested my daughter and husband because they never willingly gave my mill a sample, and we didn't want to ask her how she got the DNA. Also, my husband and I have been in therapy on and off since this happened 18 years ago. And my kids have been in therapy since they were in middle school. I make them go 4 times a year, and they can go more often if they desire. When this initially happened, I started having my daughter go weekly, and now she goes every other week. Thank you for watching the video.